Welcome to the Entertainment Audio Show with Jordan and Lane. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Lane.
Thank you for being here. And just a heads up, spoilers ahead, but I have a feeling spoilers are not going to be as big of an issue today as usual.
Well, we got a couple things, but yeah, neither one of us made it to the movies as often as we wanted to this month. I got a new job, so things are going well, but it does mean I'm more busy than usual. And I know Jordan has his job, so sometimes
Yeah.
movies just don't line up with our schedules. But on months like this, where either there's not enough for us to watch, or we don't feel like there was enough interesting things, we may do a themed episode like today. Well, you see, today we're throwing it back to the time of boy bands, the time where we learned who was the king of Pride Rock, to the time where we all thought we were all that, and the biggest question on everyone's mind was, who loves orange soda? That's right, we're going back to the 90s.
It's 90s night, baby.
I'm so excited about this. I was born in 92.
As
So
was I.
yeah, so we grew up during this period. I'm also from the South, so to steal a joke from How I Met Your Mother, I don't feel like the '90s hit in the South until like 94, 95, and kept going well past into like 2003.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of good things that came out of the '90s, like TV shows and movies, and some stuff that
yes.
has been rekindled lately.
Oh, speaking of spoilers.
Well, kind of, sort of, yes, actually.
Everybody knows. It's the biggest thing
Yeah.
happening today.
I mean, literally today. We are recording this as of March 20th. So today is the release, I guess we can go ahead and talk about it, of X-Men 97, which was a cool follow-up to the original X-Men cartoon in the 90s. When did that one start? Do you remember?
It started in 92 and ran to 1997.
Okay, then that makes sense. What did you think? Oh, well, first let's about the original X-Men show.
Yes.
What are your like thoughts on that?
Okay, so it was one of those shows where I didn't watch it when it was out because my Saturday morning cartoons were on another channel.
Hmm.
So X-Men were not ones that I really watched then. It's one that I literally finished 3 hours before 97 dropped.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I had a fresh take on it going into 97. You definitely feel the 90s in it, which is good. It to be back. I can't tell you how many times I'd start an episode in the morning before I went to work or whatever, and I'd eat it with a bowl of cereal. It felt right. But that show hit so many really good X-Men stories, man.
Yeah.
And they did them really, really well. It's the best version of Dark Phoenix outside of the comic book that we've had so far. And they've tried so many times.
It's been absolutely fantastic. I remember I actually did kind of grow. I didn't watch it super regularly, but my uncle was a huge Wolverine fan.
Yeah.
And he's kind of the one that introduced me into the X-Men. So this was kind of the thing that I would watch with him when he was over, or I would watch it and talk to him about Wolverine. Wolverine quickly became one of my favorites as well because of this, but this was kind of the show that it for lack of a better word, it PG-fied Wolverine.
Yes.
Brought him down to PG for a little bit. But I love the animation style. I love the old feeling, and now going back and watching it and having that nostalgia. Now, with that in mind, what about X-Men 97?
It's so good, man. And I don't know if it's a great, how am I gonna word this? It's a great callback to the show, but also it's modernized in a way to make it work today in like the animation style. The animation is beautiful. It looks like the old one, but it looks like a little better.
Slightly modernized. It feels like a slightly modernized 90s cartoon.
Which
is what it is.
exactly what it is.
But I gotta say, I think one of my favorite things is the fact that they brought back so many of the voice actors and actresses
Yeah,
from the original to
it
re-up their roles.
it maybe not playing the character they're playing, but I know that a lot of them who, for some reason, either did not want to play the character from before or could not based on certain things, they play somebody else in the show.
Yeah,
I think
this is. Oh, I'm so
is it
excited.
Rogue? I think it's Rogue. Her voice actor, either Rogue or Jubilee. One of those voice actresses play another character on the show, but not
Well,
the character they did
uh,
before.
according to IMDb, Rogue has the same voice actress.
Okay, it must be Jubilee then.
Let me see if I can, because I don't see Jubilee right offhand. So that's kind of the thing. Da 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 da. I'm just trying to see if I can find Jubilee real quick. Well, oh, did I just lose it? I feel like I just lost it. But it's so cool to see the return of all these characters and loving every minute of it. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it is a different actress for Jubilee. So yeah, because it was Allison Court for the original show, and now it's Holly Chow for
Okay.
the newest episode. But I feel like she did the character justice.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
the voice.
Very much so. And it also, I love that it feels like the new season just started. Like it picks up, like what, a year after the original ending,
Mhm.
but like the characters feel the same.
So now focusing in on the episode themselves. Between the two,
Hmm.
I feel like you said, we're jumping off at that point. It feels kind of like it just picked up, like you said. But which of the two would you say that you liked more? Right now, we only have the 2 episodes.
Hmm.
Which of the 2 do you have an opinion on, like, a favorite between the 2? Or is it like you love them both
I
and you
I
have a
feel
favorite
like I
moment?
love both episodes for different reasons.
Okay.
The first episode, the action scenes are incredible. Storm in the desert is literally gave me chills. And it kind of gets you
Blast.
back to
Oh.
these characters again. And it's great.
Yeah.
But the second episode, it is a bit more dialogue-y than the other one, but I feel like it's very important. And Magneto's character arc in that episode alone, not even taking it out of the original series, but that episode alone, Magneto's character arc is incredible.
Oh, 1,000%.
And
I
when you
was
put that to
so
the other 5
aggravated by that.
episodes or the 5 seasons of the original series, it makes it
Yeah.
that much better.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I need to go back and rewatch the original because I really want to see him during that period leading up to this.
Hmm.
I also feel like even within the show itself, it still feels like the 90s. It
Yeah,
doesn't feel like it feels like you said, it was a year later, so it was in the show. It's 1998. The technology that they're using is still 1998 tech. Um, One of my favorite shots was the guy holding like a television in his hand,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
updated technology, but for the time period, or for at least for the show, was accurate. And I think that's so funny, but so great. And then there's just so many other shows nowadays too that are getting re-upped because of this stuff, like X-Men.
Hmm.
Um, but I kind of want to take a minute and just talk because there was 2 powerhouses in the 90s.
Hmm.
Disney and Nickelodeon.
Yep, yep.
I think Disney's been a powerhouse forever, but Nickelodeon really found its footing, I think, in the 90s.
Yeah, it was the 90s and like the early 2000s. See, I don't even know where Nickelodeon is now because I don't think I've turned it on Nickelodeon in probably 15 years.
Yeah. Well, but even outside of that, like we've got so many 90s movies and they had things I forget what network some of these things were on. Um but like way back in the day we had Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and I think Family Matters.
That
was
was the 90s.
yeah. And
And
now
I
I'm
kind of
seeing I love hmm?
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, oh, Family Matters started in '89 and went to '98.
I think that's
Wow,
the. I think Full House does the same thing, where it started
really?
in the late '80s, and
Yeah,
everybody kind of groups it into '90s sitcoms, but it's
yeah.
kind of in the both.
Well, it looks like Full House was '87 and '95. So yeah, I mean they made it halfway through the '90s before having to call it quits.
That's still a
But
long
it's
time for a sitcom,
oh,
man.
1,000%.
That is
Especially
8 years.
oh yeah, that's insane for a sitcom. And I hate to say it, but the Fuller House didn't last near as long. I think. Did it?
Which one?
Fuller House. It's
Uh,
a sequel.
I feel like it went longer than I think it did because I kind of stopped watching it at some point.
Yeah, it lasted for 4 years. It looks like
Okay.
2016 to 2020.
Okay.
Uh,
Wow, I didn't know it went up that long.
yeah, but it like it was never as it never had the same impact as the original, and that's the problem with a lot of these shows is they lose their impact that they did.
Hmm.
Um, because lives have changed, stories have changed,
Hmm.
people have changed, and I'm not gonna say that every '90s show was perfect because it wasn't.
Oh, I can 100% say that. When Disney Plus dropped, one of the first things I went to was one of my favorite cartoons as a kid, which was Bonkers, and I gotta tell you, it did not hold up.
There's a lot of cartoons I feel like that did not hold up at the time or didn't hold up to now rather, sorry.
Mhm. Right.
But then there's things that we have so much nostalgia with that it's insane, such as like Tailspin or Gargoyles. I heard recently Gargoyles was getting a reboot.
So I'm
Um,
actually glad you brought up Gargoyles. I found something out. Uh, I on my way back from my trip I took this past week.
oh,
Listened to a podcast. There is a comic adaptation of Gargoyles that was released by I think Image Comics. And the guy who was running the podcast I was listening to said it is one of his favorite comics that he's read in the past little bit.
oh wow.
So now I have to get my hands on it. And they are currently doing a comic adaptation of Lilo and Stitch, which is not 90s. So we'll talk about that later.
No, yeah, we'll talk about that if we do a 2000s episode or something. But it's
Yeah.
funny that you mentioned because now that we've talked about comic adaptations, there is one that came out recently that I want to get my hands on. But it's not something that I watched in the '90s. It wasn't until the 2000s that I watched it. It was Power Rangers.
Oh, yeah.
I was not a Power Rangers kid. I wasn't allowed to watch it. Again, grew up in the South. It was violence. We don't have that.
Violence. It was rated
How dare?
Y7.
Um, yeah, but still. I also grew up in a household that we weren't allowed to watch like Harry Potter or anything like that. Until
I
we
get
got
it.
older, and then now I just enjoy saying I've never watched Harry Potter, which is the only reason I still haven't watched it.
Hmm.
Because I would like to watch people's heads explode when I say that.
It's like me
Um,
when I tell people I haven't watched Titanic.
exactly. I've not watched it either, so I can't tell you anything there.
Hey,
Um,
speaking of 90s.
but yes, that's desperate. Uh, butt kicking material right there. Um, but there was I'm trying to what was I gonna say? My mind just went on like this absolute sidetrack that what was I say? Oh, Power Rangers. Goodness
Yeah.
gracious Lord Almighty. So Power Rangers, I don't know if you saw, but the Pink Ranger recently came out with their own comic book. Did you see this?
I did not see this.
So I'm trying to let's see. Oh my gosh. Amy Jo Johnson
Yes. Yeah. So
came out with a new
she's writing it,
comic.
right?
Yeah. It's apparently out. Apparently they've gotten like two uh books out last I saw. Um it's like It's absolutely insane from the pictures that I've seen. And I'm trying to find the exact name of it. Oh, it's just MMPR The Return is what I'm
Oh,
seeing.
yeah, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I
Yeah,
was like,
Mighty Morphin
oh,
Power Rangers. That's a bunch of random letters. But so one of the coolest pictures I've seen was actually out of that comic. Um, it was a picture of the Red Ranger, and it was like him in like a post-apocalyptic type outfit where he was the Red Ranger. He had his full suit, but now he's like this older buff guy that has like a cape draped over his right shoulder,
ooh,
and it looks so good. I'm trying to see if I could find it quickly to send it to you so you can see it.
okay.
But it was one of my favorite, and I'm gonna say this because I'm gonna go ahead and say this here. I no joke have I play D&D
Okay.
with my brother. Um I am been building a D&D character that is a Power Ranger.
Let me get that. Let me get
And
that
it's
look. Yo.
yeah. So when I say like this is one of the coolest things I've seen, this is one of the coolest things that I've seen. Um we'll we'll go. Whatever you want me to say, nonstop, whatever. I don't know. But he just has this very post-apocalyptic look to him when he's in suit. And my character that I have, he's um I think it's it's a warlock with shadow armor with Pact of the Blade, which means his shadow armor lets him cast mage armor at will, which means he can put on armor that's made of magic essentially, aka the suit. And Pact of the Blade lets him summon a weapon. So, no joke, he's a Power Ranger.
Wow.
And I'm playing like a mini campaign with my cousin that my brother is running, and we've talked about how we're gonna cause my cousin to just stop functioning because he's playing a very serious character and I'm a Power Ranger. I'm gonna play this character very seriously, and it's not gonna be apparent that he's a Power Ranger until our first fight. Because he's literally gonna say, it's morphin' time. Power of the dragon. And he's gonna morph into he's a dark armor, like a black armor ranger with a red visor,
Hmm.
but he has Eldritch Blast so he can throw fire like a dragon. And
That's
I actually
awesome.
have one of his spells is like he can create ice on his armor or something like that to like cause ice damage if somebody hits him. So that's like the second stage of I forget what it's called, but it's like ultra mode or whatever. That's his ultra mode is the ice armor. And I'm more than a little excited because I know my cousin is just gonna be like, what? And it's gonna be great. Sorry for the sidetrack,
You're good. You're good.
but mentioning comic book made me think of that, and I needed to say it. Now I gotta. Now this does mean that I have to convince my cousin not to listen to this episode if he's listened to any of them, at least until after we've begun. So anyway, but back to the thing. There's a lot of cool comic books and even shows that have been on comic or have been part of comic books.
Yes.
Uh,
Funny because I learned recently as well that another '90s major superhero based animated series, Batman, the animated series, actually released
mhm.
the same week as X-Men back in
Yeah.
in the '90s.
And then we got a bunch of comic books after that.
We did. I
That
mean, that show literally debuted a character that is one of the most popular superhero based characters in today's age.
Hero. Superhero based, yes, but hero, no.
It depends. Anti-hero.
Not in her day, not in her original form.
No, not back then,
She
but
was
now.
pure villain.
We should probably say her name if
The
people don't know
Apprentice.
who we're already talking about.
Harley Quinn.
There it is.
First mention of Harley Quinn was in
Arlene Quinzel.
Yep. First mention was in the Batman animated series. Now there might be some people that didn't know that. It's actually fascinating to know. But I also love learning about who is who, like the voice actors behind roles. This is the thing I love about cartoons is when you're growing up, you get to hear these voices, you don't know who it is. And then when you get older, you look it up, you find out like the Joker was Luke Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
That blew my mind when I was a kid and found that out. Or one of my favorite voice actors of all time, Jim Cummings,
Yes.
has essentially voiced our entire childhood.
Uh-huh.
But just things like that.
And
then-
adulthood.
and adulthood.
The
He's
man's still
still
going.
doing this. He is still Winnie the Pooh. He did Winnie the Pooh and Tigger in that 2018 Christopher Robin movie. And he's Ray in Princess and the Frog. He's done Farouk in Aladdin. So there is so much. And he was the singing voice in, speaking of 90s again, he was the singing voice for Scar, I think.
I think it's blended. But yeah.
It is blended. But I think they had to bring him in because Jeremy Irons couldn't do one of the songs.
He
Or
recorded,
part
I
of
think
it.
he recorded originally, and they couldn't get Jerry Irons back to re-record what they needed to re-record, so they brought in
Yeah.
Jim Cummings. And you can, if you listen to the song carefully, you can hear who's who.
Yeah.
A little bit of that Winnie the Pooh comes out sometimes.
I love it. I love it so much. I love learning things. And then even like up to video games now, Disney Speedstorm,
Yes.
he's King Triton.
Yep. You can
I
hear the
was
Pooh in
not
there too.
aware of that. So excited. Yeah, that's the thing too. That once you know, you hear Winnie the Pooh everywhere. It's fantastic.
Out of all the characters he's played, that's the one you can hear.
That and a little bit of like Darkwing Duck sometimes. But most of the time, yeah, you just hear Winnie the Pooh. The only thing, or Tigger, because now he does Pooh and Tigger. So that was a fun piece of information I learned decade ago. But there were a lot of like cool animated. But what about live action? I want to kind of touch on live action a little bit.
So live action.
Well, like what was like one of your
movies?
favorite live action movie from the 90s?
Dude, I love Twister.
Twister? Really? Was that?
Twister. I
was not aware that was 90s.
Yeah, man.
Wow. That is a throwback. My parents loved that movie.
It's so good.
It really is. But every time I watch it, I want to eat the meal.
I agree.
That's where my brain goes every single time. I don't even think I liked everything on the plate, but it just looked so good.
I mean, I guess not just the food. You want to be part of that team. I mean, I don't want to be a storm chaser
I just wanted
in
the
my
food.
real life.
I just wanted the food. But that's me.
But yeah, it's like that movie. Like, I don't want to be a storm chaser, but that movie makes me want to be a storm chaser with that team.
Oh, I can get that. I can get that.
Like, I just want to hang out with those guys and get in this truck and try to get Dorothy in the sky.
I was gonna ask what the name of the thing was. I couldn't remember.
I just watched it recently. My brother had never seen it, so we just watched it recently, and whew, yeah.
Goodness gracious. Well, so I'm gonna bring up. There was a movie that I like. There were two movies that every time I visited my grandmother, one of my grandparents lived or one set of my grandparents lived like 30 minutes away in like the next town over, and we would go visit them every couple of months or every couple weeks, every few weeks, every few months, and I always went and found this VHS tape of either Angels in the Outfield or Rookie of the Year.
Heck yeah, man. Dude, baseball movies in the 90s were so good.
They were a home run.
Yeah, I see what
I'm
you did there.
sorry. I'm sorry. I've reached the point. I'm a dad without a kid. Like I do dad jokes consistently. It's either dad jokes or wheelchair jokes, and there's really no in between. But yeah. So I think I like being a Christian for me at least. Like being a Christian, Angels in the Outfield was kind of my go-to. But if I couldn't find
Mhm.
Angels, I went to Rookie of the Year every single time. Not
Yeah,
even a Cubs fan. Not even a Cubs fan.
and I feel like
Wait, I
those
recently.
movies were on all the time
True.
because I didn't see them in theaters. I didn't go rent them, but like I remember watching Rookie of the Year and Angels in the Outfield all the time.
Uh, I recently looked at the IMDb for Angels in the Outfield, and I know you said you were aware of this, but I was not aware that Matthew McConaughey was in that movie.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Like that was mind-boggling to me. Wasn't that Angels?
That was Angels.
Yeah, because the angel helped put his hand through the fence in the back. I forgot about that. And he comes out just delirious. Um, but so I definitely feel like live action was really good, but animation was kind of where it was at in the 90s.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well, I feel like there was other really good ones that I didn't maybe watch as a kid, live action wise. That I watched as a kid that I watched later on in life because they were a bit too much for me back then. But like Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock in Speed is one of my favorite action movies.
I've never seen it.
Oh man, highly recommend.
Is that the one with the bus?
Yeah, it's the one with the bus.
Oh,
Do
okay. So I
not
know
watch
of
the
it.
sequel.
Do not watch the sequel.
The
Got it.
sequel is not great. Uh,
I did.
but
The
the
only thing I know about that movie is that they had a crush on each other in real life and never did anything about it because they didn't know until 20 years later.
that's true. That's true. It's hilarious.
Uh, I did. You had mentioned something. I want to kind of bring up a thing. Let me just double check something real quick. I know that we should probably be doing this on our own time, but we haven't. I haven't been doing it. You mentioned a series that I know nothing about. But you kind of mentioned that you like it. You liked it as a kid. You were the kid. Pokemon.
Oh yes,
Uh,
the show and those early games.
like
I
what do you
I
mean the early games? Like the card games or like the?
the video games for
Okay.
the Game Boy before it had color.
Oh,
And the Game
oh,
Boy
the
Color
Game
and then
Boy.
the then the weird shaped Game Boy Advanced. But if we're talking the 90s games like uh the one that started me was Pokemon Silver. That was like late 90s. So you're looking at the Game Boy Color.
Oh wow. Oh
And
wow.
the series we would rush back home on Sundays so I could catch Pokemon.
Well, what was your favorite Pokemon as a kid?
Oh my gosh, it's like asking me my favorite child, and that'd probably be easier because I don't have any. Uh,
Okay, okay.
uh,
Well. Give me like a short rundown, because again, you're talking to someone that has I just within like the last 6 months started collecting cards. I can't pronounce half of them.
the Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's fair. Um, hmm.
So quite literally, talk to me like you're talking to a child and introducing them to Pokemon for the first time, because I don't have a clue what's going on.
You just made this harder, man. Well,
I
so you
did.
want
I
to
did it
know
on purpose.
the the basis of what Pokemon is?
Yeah.
Okay, well, some of this even I don't understand because I don't understand if Pokemon are animals. Are there other animals? Like, are they eating Pokemon? I don't know. I just choose not to think about that. Uh,
Yeah. How do they get sustenance while inside the Pokeball?
it- don't don't send me into an existential crisis right now.
Literally,
But
my
essentially,
only just to give you an idea, my only introduction to Pokemon has been Pokemon Go, which was the first Pokemon game I've ever played, by the way, was Pokemon Go, the Detective Pikachu movie, and
Okay.
cards since like December. That's
Okay.
it.
So I collected the cards, but I never played the card game. So I just essentially collected them as if I was collecting Pokemon. Which if I was a Pokemon trainer, that's how I would do it. I probably wouldn't go do any of the battles and working my way up to the league. I'd probably be a Pokemon collector. I would be the zoo owner here. But essentially, Pokemon as a concept. Uh, when kids reach the ripe old age of 10, they're sent out into the world to go collect Pokemon. You there?
That's okay.
Yeah.
10
Yep.
years old.
Yeah. Many of
I
them
just
will
want to
do it.
interject one little thing.
Yeah.
Hasn't Ash been 10 years old for like 30 years?
So I think Ash finally grew up, from what I've heard. Now I will say
Oh, okay.
there was probably about the time they started in Generation 4 Pokemon. I kind of stopped because I didn't have what was that the new game system I needed to play the games. So I just kind of fell off from it. But I think I heard that Ash finally grew up.
But I think that's a relatively recent thing, like the last 6 months.
I think like within the last year for sure. So, but yeah, and the show follows Ash Ketchum going out and getting Pokemon that he can use to train to become a Pokemon master. He says he wants to collect them all. He doesn't get anywhere close, I don't think. Um, but he uses them to go through all the gyms to get all the gym badges so he can take on the Pokemon League. Was that the word? Oh no, I could be wrong on that title. But yeah, and that's pretty much the basis of the games too. You go through the world of Pokemon, collecting the Pokemon, training them, leveling them up so you can get their gym badges.
Okay. Well, again, me coming from the outside. So, what? So you said you got up to like the fourth generation? Was
Uh,
it?
I think so. Whichever one Pokemon Diamond was, I think that was Generation 4.
Oh gosh.
That's
Okay.
the game. That's the game I didn't play because I didn't have.
So
Was it
then
Game
now
Boy
I'm gonna
SP?
make you pick a favorite child. Who is your favorite Pokemon? Like at this point in your life,
At
who is
that
your favorite
point,
Pokemon? No, at this point. At this
in my
point in your life,
in my current
as
right now, uh, I have a. I love Houndoom a lot.
really.
Yeah, I love Houndoom. Uh, he's the Pokemon. When I caught it on Pokemon Go, I literally was jumping up and down and screaming in the middle of my neighborhood.
Fantastic.
Yeah, or Houndour, the before he evolves into Houndoom. I
Yeah.
caught him and then I freaked out because then I knew I could potentially have a Houndoom.
Well, from what little I know,
Mm-hmm.
my personal favorite Pokemon, and I know people are gonna roll their eyes when they hear this, is Raichu.
Raichu. Okay,
But
I was half expecting you to hear say Pikachu.
no, because I know enough that I like Pikachu. Pikachu is amazing, but I think my favorite Pokemon is Raichu. But specifically, this is where things get weird. The Alolan Raichu.
Oh, you're touching on concepts I don't know anything about.
So, but I think that stems from other things because I have an appreciation and fascination, and I like to learn about um other cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the cultures I really like learning about is cultures of like the Polynesian islands,
Yeah.
and the folks that live there, and learning about like how the different islands, even though they're close, may have vastly different things. And Alolan, in my mind, I don't know this for sure. I think Alolan come from an island in the Pokemon universe.
I think that's
And
correct.
okay, Because the picture that I'm looking at right now is a Lolo Raichu surfing on his tail or her tail.
Okay.
Like literally using it as a surfboard on water. And that is amazing. But that is by far, and I think I caught one in Pokemon Go, and that's when I flipped out and almost fell out of my wheelchair. But yeah. So like, but again, I don't know anything about power amounts or Pokemon types. My brother tries to explain that, or my other brother tries to explain like that to me all the time, and I just look at him like he's got three heads and nod and hope that I catch something I understand.
hmm
But that's about the length of my Pokemon knowledge. Is that okay? Okay, okay. I did want to ask though. Kind of now that we're kind of on the subject of franchises and movies. Uh, there are movies that feel 90s
hmm
that maybe weren't quite 90s. Like Goofy movie was a 90s movie. It was done in 1995.
Yes,
But the extremely Goofy movie technically is not a 90s movie.
that was sometime in the early 2000s, right?
It was 2000
Oh,
from
right
what I
there. So
saw. It was literally, but that's why it feels
as
so
close to
90s.
the
But then there
90s
was
as you can
stuff,
be without being in it.
and that's what I love. Is I want to see if I can find the exact date that it came out, but I don't know.
Hold up, I can probably get that right now.
Mine, all of mine is saying is 2000. So I don't quite wait. No, I can scroll down. um, let's see. This is the thing about if you're ever listening and we get quiet for a minute, I apologize. Just trying to figure February 29th. So literally, technically, while not a 90s movie, still kind of a 90s movie
Right.
because it was February 9th, 2000. And I
Literally as
love
close as
this
you can
movie.
be without being in it.
It feels 90s so much. But yeah, I absolutely love this
Goofy movie
this
was actually
movie.
one of my favorite animated movies from the 90s, not including Lion King, which is my favorite movie of all time. I'm actually currently wearing a Powerline World Tour 1995 shirt right now
Yeah,
in
mine
honor
is
of this.
somewhere. I have two Powerline shirts, and that's somewhere. I don't know where either one of them is. Um, One of them I call my back bad luck shirt because I wore it one day and immediately got like bad news after bad news after bad news, and then I didn't wear it for like 2 years. So, and then I think I wore it one day and got bad news and was like, nope, burning it. But oh, I'm like looking at my list of things I wanted to talk about, and you actually mentioned another franchise a little while ago that you wanted to talk about. Was the Airbud franchise.
Oh yeah. So
I got that
yeah,
listed
the
right
first
above Goofy movie, which is how my brain is linking these. Sorry.
right. So Airbud is the first few of those movies are released in the 90s. I watched the original as a kid. I had the VHS tape. Had not seen any of the sequels until recently. I'm doing the alphabetical run through the movies on Disney Plus, and sometime in the last year they released the Airbud movies on there. So I had to come back out of the low B's back into the A's to take care of the Airbud movies. Uh, and that is a movie that did hold up. That first Airbud did hold up. The sequel
Really?
I was not a big fan of.
No.
The one where he said soccer was next.
I don't have a clue. I
There's so
haven't
many,
seen them
man.
in so long.
I think they're still making Airbud sequels.
But I think they're Air Buddies now.
Yeah,
Is
it's like a
something like
spinoff.
it's got the puppies. I think they went to space a few years ago, and that's kind of when I was like, well, they've jumped the shark.
Yeah, and there's like a they find Santa Claus or no Santa Paws.
Yeah. Which, if I remember correctly, it's just quite literally um Santa's dog
I think so.
or something like that. He's the puppy that travels with Santa in Santa's sleigh.
Hey, everybody needs a dog to accompany them. They're
I'm not
traveling the
denying
world.
that. I'm not denying that. I got a
Well,
dog,
you do have a
and her
dog. Oh,
name is Riker.
oh, football was after. Basketball is the
Oh,
original Air Bud. That
football.
movie's good. Football, Golden
Yeah.
Receiver. I was not a big fan of, and I've
Oh my
actually
god.
tried to watch World Pup a couple times, which is that one's soccer. That one's a chore. Uh,
Oh my gosh. Sorry.
and once and once I get through those, it gets even more fun because then we get to Air Bud seventh inning fetch and Air Bud Spikes Back, which is volleyball,
Oh my goodness gracious.
and then
I
Air
think
Buddies start.
if I remember, I actually really liked the football one, but I grew up again in the well. I feel like you did too. Grew up in the area that football was huge.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Um, so for me, like I was trying. I think I'm mentally may have been trying to connect to my friends who loved football. I'm not a
Mhm.
sports person. I'm not. I like hockey, but that's recent. Go Mighty Ducks. Um, also 90s, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, I think the first movie actually was like 80 something, but the actual like Anaheim Ducks started off as Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, owned by the Walt Disney Company.
No, you're right. The first Mighty Ducks was 1992. So that movie's the same age we
Oh,
are.
yeah, that makes sense because 93 is when the actual hockey team happened. And then they continued making movies. Then they had that 90s cartoon.
Yeah, they
I don't
did.
know if you remember that.
Yeah, they did.
My brother and I were actually recently watching that. That was like part of our thing.
Did that
But
one hold up?
it's a good. I felt like that was a good one to kind of almost just turn your brain off
Gotcha.
and go back, like kind of revert back to Serial on a Monday morning or a Saturday morning. Sorry, um, Serial on a Saturday morning. Cartoon, kind of like for me it was like the Justice League show that came out early 2000s. I know
Mhm.
that's not 90s. I'm sorry, but like it was a lot of that. Like when I had an internship somewhere, and on my days off, I would stay in pajamas, eat French toast crunch because they had just brought that back. I would eat that, like 4 bowls of it. I would build Legos and watch a cartoon or a movie. And this definitely feels like one of those cartoons that I would have turned on while building Legos. Just trying to like have that moment of I need to revert back to childhood for a little while to de-stress from the
Yeah.
week. Um but yeah. So that was it feels like one of those like just kind of turn your brain off and enjoy your time alone sort of things,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I
And I
mean,
feel
it's
like
like a lot of the movies that I really enjoy. People are like, "How do you enjoy it?" I'm like, "Well, I turned my brain off and I had fun watching while it was happening."
yeah, that's the thing, and I feel like that's the case. Now, I'm not gonna say that a lot of '90s shows and movies didn't make you think, because they did.
Mhm.
I still like I cry when I watch like the last episode of Fresh Prince of Bel Air. I watched the last episode of Deep Space Nine, Star Trek, the other day, and I cried because it's the end of an era essentially, and to me, not all of the shows of the last decade or two have had that feeling. The show ends and you're just kind of like, but it was always like when a show, specifically like a '90s show, like a long lasting '90s show comes to an end, you feel like you've known these characters for your whole life or for a decade or something like that. And to see them suddenly leave is heart wrenching.
Yeah.
And shows just don't last like they used to.
For the most
But
part,
it's
they
a
don't.
different time. It's a different time. Now, granted, there are shows like Grey's Anatomy. I know when that one ends, people are gonna lose their ever loving mind. It's lasted longer than some soap operas.
That yeah, I don't know when that started, but it's been out for a
Let's
while.
find out. Because I know that they went through like 3 different Greys. No, it says 2005. So
That's still a
it's been
long
going on
that's
for
coming up on 20
18 years.
years.
Oh,
It's
you're right.
2004.
Almost 20 years. Wow.
It's 2024.
So that's insane. And you've just seen people evolve there. I've never watched it. Thanks to TikTok, I've seen clips,
Yeah, me
but
too.
I've never watched an episode. Well, I feel like at this point I've watched a culmination of an episode due to TikTok. But I love seeing that a lot of like even like older shows are coming back because of TikTok. Some shows are getting greenlit because of TikTok,
Hmm.
which is insane to me. And I feel like this is going to become a new marketing tool if the ban doesn't last. But there's just so much good stuff that came out of the 90s, and I'm really, really grateful to have been born in the 90s. And to have like these shows growing up, these VHS tapes, but I also feel like we were kind of lunged into the 21st century a little bit.
Yeah.
So having that nostalgia, but now still being able to, now that Disney Plus and HBO Max, or just Max now, sorry, Paramount Plus and all these different streaming services are a thing. I'm so grateful that we live now because I can just, if I want a bowl of cereal tomorrow morning when I wake up, I can get a bowl of cereal, turn on Tailspin, which is one of my favorite shows as a kid.
Hmm.
Turn it on, revert back to childhood, fight my dog over the cereal, and enjoy.
Yeah,
But
we get to enjoy the best things of today while also going back to enjoy the best things of then as well.
so this is kind of where things get crazy. I will say this: I feel like we're kind of reaching a natural point of ending for this episode.
Yes.
But I know this has been a shorter episode than most, but this might be one of my favorite episodes. At least this far. Granted, we've only had 3. This is number 3. But I definitely feel like this is. There's a lot we could have talked about.
We could go on
Uh,
forever.
we could.
We didn't even touch on like the the 90s Muppets things or like
I kind of also forgot about a lot of that stuff, and I hate to say that,
yeah,
but because it's been
Muppets Treasure
so
Island was so
long.
Muppets Treasure Island was
Okay,
like one of the
that one I
tapes
do
that
want to
wore
talk
out.
about. I do want to. Sorry, that is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm just gonna say it because I think that one will hold up the test of
I do.
time.
And when people always talk about who do you think of when you think of Tim Curry? Muppets Treasure Island is what I think of.
Oh, 1,000%,
Long
1,000%.
his Long John Silver, man, it's awesome. Then you also got the Muppets Christmas Carol.
Okay, so I want to talk about now that you've mentioned both of those. I feel like you know where my brain is going right now. I saw a thing recently that was like the reason that these two were so good. The reason that these two Muppet movies, now the other ones are pretty good, but the reason that these two Muppet movies were so fantastic. Tim Curry, the way that he portrayed Long John Silver was he portrayed Long John Silver as though he himself were a Muppet.
Yeah.
And the reason that Muppet Christmas Carol is so good is, oh, why am I blanking? Uh, Michael Caine. Sorry. The reason that Michael Caine is so good in that one is because he treats the Muppets like they're humans. So he's straight shot even when they couldn't. And I absolutely love, and I see the difference between the two movies, and I see the love that people have for both of these movies, and it is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I have a tremendous love for both of these movies. But I gotta say, Muppet Treasure Island has it for me because of Way Down in Kokomo. Like that whole sequence just
Oh,
lost me.
the Cabin Fever.
The cabin fever, like all the singing on the ship. I thought Kokomo was part of that, but it may not be. But just that whole singing sequence, and when they get to the island, and you find out Miss Piggy's on the island, it's one of the greatest movies I think I've seen in a long
She comes
time.
riding on an elephant.
Fantastic, fantastic. But On that regard, I miss the '90s, but I'm
Oh
glad
yes.
we have streaming services.
So there was kind of before we to newsworthy stuff I've seen recently that kind of
Oh
reminds me
yeah,
of something that would have come out in the 90s. Did you hear
yeah.
about the new Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, The Man with the Bag?
No, actually, what?
Yeah, so Arnold Schwarzenegger will be playing Santa,
Oh,
and his magical bag is stolen.
oh,
So he turns to his naughty list to find somebody who can help him get it back. So he finds a former thief to plan a heist to get his magic bag back, and the thief is going to be played by Alan Ritson from Reacher.
oh my word!
Yeah, and I read this and I'm like, this is an action movie as Arnold Schwarzenegger playing Santa. This is a 90s action movie if I've ever read a synopsis of a 90s
That
action movie.
oh my! I cannot wait.
Yeah, I think it's going to start filming soon. But I
Well,
read
I
this and
hope.
I'm like,
And oh my god,
this is a movie I
I
will be
love
seeing.
action Christmas movies. I love action Christmas movies, but this might be on the top like 5 list for a little while. Um, and then there's one coming out this year with Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
And Chris
Um,
Evans, right?
I think it's Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Chris Evans, and then don't make me lie. Who's the guy playing? Um, shoot, he's playing J.K. Simmons. Oh my gosh, he's playing Santa Claus.
Oh, I remember seeing the I think it was a TikTok of him like in the gym beefing up for this role.
Yes, that's what makes me so excited. Is we're getting like different views of Santa Claus nowadays, and it's fantastic. I can't wait. This year's gonna be great. This just means that we're gonna have to do a Christmas special this year.
I mean, were we not going to do one already?
Well, yeah, but now it's kind of an announcement to the world, and now we have to hold up to it.
Oh, the 5 people are going to hold us responsible.
All 4.5 people, because I'm pretty sure the half was me. But so what did you? I'm gonna say this. I'll end with this. I'm grateful. Like I said, I'm grateful to have been born in the '90s, getting to see all of this stuff, getting to see all the fun, crazy colors and the craziness, and not knowing how nostalgic this was gonna be, and seeing it now that I'm older. I'm grateful to have been born when we were born because now I can pay money to watch the stuff again on
Yep.
streaming instead of having to worry about my VHS tape blowing up in the VCR.
Or you not having the VHS tape and never being able to find it again.
Yeah. And your Blockbuster, God rest Blockbuster soul. Um no, but going to Blockbuster and not finding what you were looking for
Yeah.
or someone else had checked it out. And I think we had, and this is what I'm talking about when I said like the South had like the 90s in the South didn't start till 1995. Oh, here goes a second. Sorry. Woo. Woo. Sorry. I sneezed like a cartoon character. Um, but I think we had movie rental places until well into 2010s or later,
Mm-hmm. I
which I
remember.
guess really isn't so out of the ordinary. But I know that we still had one after Netflix went online, and I don't
Yeah, I
remember when that
remember
was.
the our hometown had a video rental store that a guy opened in like 09, 2010, something like that.
Oh,
And I think it closed sometime, but it was still moving. It was still running when I moved in 2014.
oh wow.
It was a very, very small selection of things, though. Because this was like one guy who's like, I miss Blockbuster. I'm gonna open my own Blockbuster.
That was smart. And now I think there's still one Blockbuster somewhere, right?
Then Oh no, it's in Ohio, I think.
Didn't they just like make a movie about it?
There's a whole documentary movie about it.
Oh no, it's in Oregon.
Oregon. I knew it began with an O. They're also doing pop-ups. They doing traveling pop-ups with it because recently the fair here had the Blockbuster pop-up, but you could buy movies instead of renting them. You could buy them.
Yeah.
It was set up like a Blockbuster.
That's hilarious. I love that at least somebody's using the name, and I think that's hilarious. But this is saying that this is in Bend, Oregon. It was opened in '92, but it is as of 2020. It is it was the last Blockbuster in existence. It was born. It was born. Jeez, opened in 1992 as Pacific Video, and then converted to Blockbuster in 2000 or something like that.
Okay, so this is like a retrofitting almost.
Oh wow! Apparently, they ran an ad in 2023, so it's still open. All right. And on that note, I'll say, I'm glad that we did this. If anybody's actually listening and has any ideas for a future themed episode or a future special that they would like to see, you can go find us on YouTube if you're not already on YouTube. Same name, the Entertainment Audio Show with Jordan and Lane. Leave a comment and let us know what you think. We're sorry that
Or
this
if you
episode's a
actually
little
know
short.
us, just text us.
Yes, that too. If you know us, just text us.
If you
Love
follow
it.
us on our social medias, leave a comment there.
Because we will probably answer.
We
Thank you
have
for
nothing
joining
else
us.
to do.
Thank you for joining us back on this day trip back to the 90s. Real quick, last question. NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
So that's actually changed. As a kid, I was more of an NSYNC person. I feel like now I'm more of a Backstreet Boys person.
Good man, good man. Because Backstreet's back. All right. All right. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.